And finally, that brings us down to verse 15. But she, a wife, will be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith, love, and holiness with good sense. Artemis was often celebrated with titles like First Throne, Queen of the Cosmos, Lord and Saviour. Saviour in the sense that she would answer the prayers of petitioners, especially women in labour, either for a painless birth or a quick death. And I think Paul is saying, look, Artemis is not your saviour, Jesus is. Christian women have Jesus, not Artemis, as their protector and their patron deity in childbirth. As Sandra Glan puts out, this would have been very important for women converting to Christianity who would have wondered, who now is going to protect me in childbirth? If they've abandoned Artemis, who's going to look after them? And Paul is saying, Jesus is with you in life and death. What is more, if they continue in love, holiness, and good sense, I think the they is not the women in the Ephesian church. It's more likely husbands and wives together. They will experience this deliverance, this rescue, if they engage in what the ancients called eusebia, which is piety, the virtues of Christian living listed here as faith, love, and holiness. So that is my reading of 1 Timothy 2, where I've tried to go through the various aspects, the various verses, and how it would have been understood by its original recipients. What does it mean to read 1 Timothy 2 in Ephesus? And as I've said, you can't extract it from its local context. You can't turn it into a timeless treatise about men and women when this text, like all texts, is historically situated. Now, I haven't tried to use the cult of Artemis as a kind of magical talisman to get around Paul's prohibition. Paul does make a prohibition. He does tell these women he doesn't want them teaching, domineering, pushing any dubious ideas. He doesn't want them to have authority over their husbands for the reasons I've laid out. Okay, but I've tried to say that is related to a particular context, which is why we don't find a similar prohibition anywhere else in Paul's letters, and why it has some unusual specificities, like using the word authenteo, why he appeals to, women being able to be saved through childbirth, why he makes such an energetic remarks about women not wearing too much bling or extravagant apparel. I think it is rooted in the ancient context of Ephesus. And that's not to get around what Paul says, it's to understand what Paul says and how we can apply it. But look, some people will say, look, even if Artemis is in the background, you can find versions of Artemis anywhere. There's goddesses, there's polytheistic religion everywhere in the empire. So Paul is just saying to the Ephesians, what he'd say to women anywhere where there are temples or religious associations, anywhere where women want to participate and lead. Now, that might be a little bit true given the parallels, say, between 1 Corinthians 11 and 1 Timothy 2. Both are about husbands, wives, authority, and decorum in the house churches. But there's a degree of specificity, as I've laid out in 1 Timothy 2, that I think is simply hard to dismiss.